First, we start by importing useState from React for managing state, and useSWR from the SWR library, which is a React hook for data fetching and caching. We then define an asynchronous function called fetchData that takes a URL as an argument. This function uses the browser's native fetch API to make a network request to the given URL, then parses the response as JSON and returns it. In the lazy load component, we import useEffect and useRef from React along with useState. We initialize data state to null, which will later store the fetched data, and a load state to false that will track whether we should start loading the data. The useRef hook is used to create a reference to the DOM element that we want to monitor for entering the viewport, which will be the trigger for loading our data. We use the useEffect hook to execute side effects in our component. Inside this hook, we create a new IntersectionObserver. This observer takes a callback function that receives entries, an array of IntersectionObserver entry objects. If the first entry is intersecting, meaning that the element is in view based on the threshold set to 0.1, we call setLoad and set it to true, indicating that we should start the data fetching process. If element ref current is defined, meaning that our referenced element is mounted, then we start observing it. We return a cleanup function that disconnects the observer when our component unmounts to prevent memory leaks. Next, we use the useSWR hook to manage data fetching. The first argument to useSWR is a key to identify the request, which will be the URL, API, data only if load is true, otherwise null. By conditionally passing the URL, we ensure that the data is fetched only when we need it, achieving our lazy loading pattern. The useSWR hook returns an object with the data we fetched, alias to server data, and any error that might have occurred. We use another useEffect hook that runs whenever server data changes. If server data contains data, we update our component's data state with setData, effectively storing the fetched data for rendering. Finally, we render our lazy load component. If there was an error while fetching the data, we display a failed to load data message. Until the data is fetched, we render a loading placeholder. This is the div we refer to with our element ref, which will be observed by the IntersectionObserver. Once data is available, it will be displayed as a stringified JSON for demonstration purposes. This lazy loading approach ensures that we only load data when needed, improving the performance of our web application.